What's up, everyone? Welcome. We are live right now on CannaBuzz. And if you're joining us on YouTube or our podcast feed, thank you so much for joining us. We have a great episode for you today. We have Tim from SC Filtration. We're going to be talking all about extracts and a special type of extracts. Tim from Sambo Creek is going to be talking about plasma separation machines. This is some really cool stuff. I've got a picture later that we'll show you of this cool equipment. Actually, while I'm talking about it, I'll just flash it up on the screen there for you so you can see what we're talking about. But we'll get more into that in a second. But before we do, I need to give some folks some shout outs. First off, shout out to everyone in the CannaBuzz community. If you want to support us and be a part of our community and just help keep this thing going, join us at CannaBuzz.app or download the CannaBuzz app in your favorite app store, Android or iOS, and join us. You can join us for as little as $4.20 a month, and your sponsorship or support helps us do things like keep the show going, but also we're going to send JR to the DGC Cup coming up this summer. So your support is very crucial and very, very helpful. So if you want to help us do things like that, please join us over there in the CannaBuzz community. You can post all your grow pictures, all your, if you want to hang out and shoot a video of you ripping a bong or whatever it is, it's all good. You can post whatever you want over at Cannabis. Also, shout outs to a couple other folks. Tanasi over at Tanasi Gardens. Look, just Google that and you'll find his website. And then we also want to shout out our friends over at Lost Coast Plant Therapy. We just love Dirk, and he's supported us for years. So we check them out. I've been using Lost Coast Plant Therapy a lot lately because now when it warms up, the spider mites come out, and they've kind of infested our area. So I've been using the Lost Coast Plant Therapy. And then I'm going to throw it over to JR, and then JR, I guess you can kick off the interview.
Excellent. Thanks, Q. I do want to shout out TikiSeeds.com and TikiCuts.com. This is the time of year when you want to start thinking about the genetics you're going to be working with if you're going outdoors this summer. So now's a good time to hit up his website and check out Raw Genetics SecretSelections.io. And I know Brad is moving over to a Zikigai line because he has a nursery license in the state of California now. So they're shifting gears, rebranding a bit, and should have all kinds of awesome stuff available really soon. I do have a cut menu out a little bit right now myself. I've got a Z pie that I hunted out of his that's super, super good. I've been sending it to the bakery there at the DGC. Everyone over there seems to be a favorite. And Kyle at the extract seller is doing some extracts with it. So check him out as well. I also been up to some foraging. I did a bit of reishi foraging, and I made my first really good dual extraction reishi batch. You can check out how it was made and all the details on my Instagram channel. So now I want to talk to Tim. I'm really excited to have him on today. Tim's from Sambo Creek. You can check out their website. They've got like every kind of thing you could possibly imagine to need for extracting just about anything. I would imagine at this point, you could just about extract anything with their equipment. But today we're talking about plasma separation. And they're kind of at the forefront of this. And it's really like, part of stoner ingenuity is answering a problem. And we had a problem of having too much material in our dry sift. And so they're now able to get that out. So we're going to talk about plasma separation, their new machine that is a desktop machine. So welcome to the show, Tim. Glad to have you on.
Nice to be here again.
That was awesome. Yeah, so we might as well get into it, man. So just kind of, we're going to walk a little bit through what dry sift is, because I think people still are not super, in tune to what it is, because the wash has been taken over the industry for a good, 10 years now. And so I really want to kind of let people know what it is, why it's been a barrier, and what the solution is today, if you could kind of let people know.
it's been a long process over centuries, basically. That dry sitting, you're taking the raw trichomes off the plant, separating them from the biomass, and then containing that more or less in a concentrate. But that was making block of hash back then. They didn't have presses and bags and all the fun stuff we got now. But basically, just pressing that into hash, the hand rubbed hash, right off the plant. That was probably the first hash. I don't know, don't take me on that one, but I think, first people that were harvesting got their hands covered, rubbed it off, threw it in a pipe, and went, "Holy shit, hash!" You know what I mean? Now, the other part of that is that's still labor intensive, and you can only get so much, and blah blah blah. So that is a big waste of time. But if you're harvesting, yeah, it works. But separating those off like they do, it was Lebanese, but they had to move down to Morocco because of all the shit that's been going on over there, like now. And so, what's happened in that separation? They do the same thing in Afghanistan too, where they'll dry the plants out. They're always sun dried. They don't have any super humidified areas like we do. So they'll sun dry it and then take that, put it in a container. You've probably seen people beating with sticks, using it over in nylon. Back in the old days, it was silk. In Afghanistan, you'll see a lot of it where there's a big, it's a bed sheet basically out of silk strung out, and the guy's shoveling weed on, and the other guy's got a silver, a couple of metal blades, and he's winging it through, knocking that stuff off, filtering the trichomes out into a pile below. They do the same thing. Over time, we progressed into making, there's screens you can buy now of the different grades, different microns. So you get those, you can hand do that. Always the trouble was you could never scale that into any production because most people, I mean, anybody that's done it, and there are some people that are really good at it, don't get me wrong, but they are so few and far between, it's unbelievable. You might find, I'm serious, there might be a dozen people in the United States that are any good and could do it at a production level. Okay. And they're still, that's rare. My point is, most people would use a screen and start doing that at home. Oh well, I'll do some dry sift, right? And by the end of the day, you start in the morning, and by the end of the day, you had enough to smoke with your friend and his girlfriend and your girlfriend or wife.
Yeah, right.
And you were done. You had a handful, literally. Okay, so what we did there was find that there's an electromagnetic situation going on with almost everything in the world. Everything has a positive or negative flow. We do, ground, everything around us, that kind of stuff. So what we did is find out the specific parameters around tracking trichomes and not biomass, because biomass carries a negative to a positive, a positive to a negative. So anyway, what we did was we've got two plates, metal plates, one positive plate, one negative plate, and we put the trichomes down between it. We hit them with plasma on the way. That helps separate things. But then when it gets into the static, that's where it separates, and you can actually watch it. The first time I actually saw it in function, if you've ever done hand sieving, it was like, it was heaven broke open. Oh my God, I'll have in an hour what I would have had in a day.
Yeah,
way more in an hour. Put it that way.
I had the pleasure of seeing one of your larger machines and the products from it, and I got to look under the microscope and see, the clarity of the product as far as void of material. It was just almost pure heads on the first run, and it seems like you have to be somewhere in that 90 percentile on that first run. Is there post processing? Is there post processing that people do to get it dialed into that 99.99999?
Well, we just worked on actually an air vac sieve, a vac sieve. So what the problem is, like Marsh has one out there advertising now. it'll do 200 grams in like a half an hour. Okay, well, 200 grams ain't going to get you nowhere in production, right? The guy's going to be there all day shoveling, doing this, and you're going to spend how much on him to do that, and compared to how much you're making, it's So we've got one that'll be 24 inches, so it'll produce. It'll be one you can do in production afterward. What we found is, and people are going to say, "Oh, well, I'll just buy an airbag sieve." Oh, yeah, I'll just get that, and I can just pour stuff on there and do it that way, right? Well, yeah, you can, but if you haven't removed a lot of the biomass before, you're going to be there for a day. You're going to be shoveling it on and then throwing away the trash and shovel it, and it's back and forth, and you'll be working that material forever. And that isn't what you want to do. You want to be as gentle as we can with this material, any trichome. So I don't care if you're in water or you're dry, whatever. You want to handle them as gently as possible. So that's not something that we like. So what we found is we can take and we'll do a general sieving in the beginning, just basic shaker sieving, right? Take off most of the major stuff, quote unquote. And then we go through the static. When we get through the static, we're at about 90 something, anywhere from say 90 to 95. All right. But what we found was on the trichomes themselves, there'll be some micro biomass that'll stick on there, or it'll be in between, it'll be glued to it. And then we use that vac sieve afterward, and that takes off that micro biomass. Then we've got 99 all day long. So with a combination of the two machines, you'll get to 99. Right now, we're in the low 90s or 90s. You know what I mean? But to be honest with you, most people wouldn't know the difference between 92 and 99.
No,
Really,
I wouldn't.
I'm not trying to be rude to anybody, and I understand. I want it as clean as possible, also. Okay, but what I'm saying is, you could take our process and go through the static, and that's a very pure product. It's 90 plus. Okay, but if you want to do that refinement to 99, you get the next machine, which we'll have soon. It's in production, or it's in R&D in production right now. As soon as we get it made, it'll be all stainless. It'll meet all the good manufacturing practices, standards, and European standards, and all that. It'll make an FDA lab. That's what we've been lining all the equipment towards, working in an FDA lab in case Schedule 3 does happen to happen. Then at least all of our equipment will pass that standard.
That's I was thinking about just in relation to concentrates. I just saw this headline today or yesterday that for the first time ever, vape concentrates have become more popular than flour, which is interesting. And someone was making the point, or at least I should say, they were kind of putting out the theory that that's like younger people kind of gravitating towards that. I don't want to derail the conversation, but it was just interesting in terms of concentration. It seems like that's where some of the market's heading.
Well, if you think about it, if you're smoking leaf or bud or whatever, you're going to get a lot of carbon in there, which is a lot of things you really don't want to breathe. Like breathing nasty air, right, in a nasty city or something, right? So nobody wants to do that. So that's why a concentrate is more pure, and then vaporizing it is even better because you're not carbonizing it, right? You're vaporizing it, and hopefully you're not carbonizing it in the pipe that you're using and all that. But it's much less. Put it that way. And that's why I say too, that's the difference with dry sitting. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, but I've got to start with dry weed." No, you don't have to start with dry weed. You can start with frozen weed, just like you're doing now with your, fresh frozen, and just extract your trichomes off in a cold room. Do the same thing there, knock them off, and then we take one day in our processing to do the sieving, the static, and the air sieve, and then you can do whatever you want with them. Press them into concentrate. You can make pantella. You could put it in edibles. Whatever you want to do. They're just raw trichomes ready to go, right? And that way, we're only breaking that cold chain for say one day, right? That one day we take it out of the cold environment where we separated things. We move it over here where we're separating and staticking and moving on. And a lot of people say, well, in bubble hash, we don't break the cold chain. frozen, and then goes to ice water. And yeah, then you put it in a freeze dryer. Excuse me. You're putting it in a freeze dryer, you're drying it out and you're heating it up. Okay. Besides that, as soon as you press it to make concentrate, you've pushed it way beyond. You're over 100 degrees and you're pressing it, and you can smell it in the room, right? So we know that those processes are eliminating terpenes and burning them off. They're leaving, and they're leaving in a quantity you can smell. So dry sieving, we take and do our process in one day and put it back in the freezer or back in a cold environment. We've only broken the cold chain for one day per se, and we've got a raw product. So it's never been heated, per se, other than a room temperature, 50, 60 degrees. That's not going to hurt it. Hell, it grows in 90-degree weather outside.
Well,
Right?
I think that a lot of people don't understand what gets lost in the wash. Can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, it's really sad, and everybody can say, "Oh, but we use it as a carrier. We use water as a carrier. It's not a solvent." No,
It's a solvent,
water is a solvent. Okay,
the
here it is.
universal solvent, right?
Exactly. It's probably the original. I mean, if you're getting down to it, everybody dilutes things with what? Water. 99, what, a lot. Way more than anything else on earth, probably. So, yes, and it's used as a solvent too. So, there is some removal of terpenes, which are hanging on the outside. That the terpene blossom on the bottom of a trichome, if people don't know or understand the whole structure of a trichome, that area is exposed. It's open. So that's why you smell, right? It's releasing odor and you're smelling it. That means there's a hole there, right? So if I'm pouring water on this thing, what's going to happen?
Well,
Sure.
just smell your
Yeah.
water. When you go
Well,
to
the air
drain,
inside,
take a big whiff of your water. You
exactly.
know
The
there's
air
stuff in
inside
there.
the little air inside that hole and the trichome will keep it from going any further, but you're going to wash away anything on the surface. So you're washing away terpenes, no doubt about it. Okay, and at the best can't say, like you just said, you can smell it in the water, and then the other negative side for bubble hash in some respects, not only the cost of equipment and the amount of equipment, and when you have a dry sieving area or a dry sieving operation, you don't have to worry about 300 gallons of water in and up on the floor someday because some pipe leak, right? You don't have to worry about that kind of a danger. And basically, the trash that comes out of bubble hash, okay, the water is waste, right? You got to throw it away. It spoils in an hour and stinks like hell, right? The biomass itself is now trash, and you can't do anything more with it, right? You can't put it into alcohol and take that little bit that it might have left, right? You can't do anything like that with it. Where in dry sieving, we take all of the leftover and we can push that to alcohol and make edibles all day long. And the biomass gets totally 100% extraction. So we're getting a good quality hash, and our biomass, quote unquote, waste product is making our edibles. It's a win-win in comparison. And the amount of equipment, like I say, let alone no the amount of equipment, but the space needed, all those things fall into play. But cost also, it costs money to build a room, and if you build one right, they're not cheap for production. If you're just building it for yourself, a solo grower or something, you can get away with some small costs, but it's still going to be more than you bargain for most people. When they start doing it, they start figuring it out, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, this is 5,000, and now I'm at 8,000, and they're still building the room. And I've seen it happen before. And equipment, yeah, it's a dime a dozen out there, but not all of it's as efficient as others. And one thing I must say with Sambo, Charles has really done a lot of work to try and make sure everything is better than just we made one that looks like that guy's and does the same thing, right? We put the blades on our water. We have bubble hash equipment. We sell that production level, and we've eliminated all the problems of lifting and all those fun things, taking that out of the system. You know what I mean?
Well,
Separation.
the way these things work is they come in waves. We
Oh yeah.
saw, you saw Mila and Bubble Man kind of bring the bubble bags on the scene. It took a minute. Once BHO got squashed, well, then it created an industry, a huge wash industry. Now we're looking at the coming on of the dry sift industry and the obvious superiority to it. So as you're kind of navigating that, especially at Sambo Creek, you've got to kind of play to both sides in a bit, in a way, don't you?
We've done both equipment because we started off making bubble hash equipment, right? Like everybody else. When I first met Charles, I was working on the static electricity, and so was he. And neither one of us could get it to work constantly, uniformly or anything. It would work, and then it wouldn't work, and we're adjusting knobs and trying to figure out what's going on. And there was a lot of time. I spent a lot of years doing that, just trying to figure it out. Like somehow this is going to work. I know it. And then he hired some physics people and some very smart people, electrostatic experts, physicists, and figured it out. So that made a quantum leap right there. The big thing right now, like I still like the people in California. I have nothing against people in California. I still consider myself one in a way. But bottom line, they're all in. They've all spent so much money on that equipment, and now they're underneath it. You know what I mean? That equipment is a lot of people are still paying for theirs. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, okay? They're on terms.
Like the BHO got the same way. I mean, I know you know that. Where the same. That's why the price went to the ground, because everybody and their brother was sitting on payments of $500,000 machine or whatever it was, right? So they were all trying to figure out, like, how am I going to keep making payments? Bottom line. And the same thing in bubble hash to a point. I know the cold chain, I get that now. Okay, well, I think we can augment that by saying we're not going to take any more time than you are in your freeze dryer to warm up the material like you do, right? In our 1 day of process, period.
Well, so, the tell
is the cold chain any more than you are. And I don't like them. I'm not, everybody can do their thing.
Yeah.
I know people are using vac now for air drying, right? Well, they'll take their bubble hash and take a vacuum with a screen on it, and then vacuum the water out of the material and then let it air dry. And it goes and all that. Okay, you can do all that stuff. Don't get me wrong. I got no problem with that. But anytime you're hitting the product with water, you're losing 10% probably easily. Let alone the ones that are broken open. Got to think about that. Not every trichome's coming off perfect, right? Some of them are going to be broken or cracked or whatever. You throw them in the water and stir them up with a blade, and then they start leaking, and next thing you know, that all goes into the water and it flushes away. You lost that. It's gone.
Well, the tell is the science, right? It's the lab reports. Are you able to make sure you get a broad enough terpene profile testing to kind of demonstrate that, this is a superior method to a wash method?
Well, to be honest with you, I know there's some people have done a few side-by-side tests with material, but it's so difficult because some material will wash good, but it won't static. Some material will static good, but it won't wash good. And then there's some material that'll do both. And I don't know how to put it any other way.
And there's some material that does better with BHO.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I've walked away from that business a long time ago, but yeah, it's like anything. There's different areas where it's going to work a little better. So it's really hard to judge, like, okay, if I washed this and I got 4 grams, say, just a number, right? I get 4 grams over here washing it. Let's say I get 5 grams static in it. Does that mean I got more over here and didn't lose it over in the wash? Or where was that one? Where does that one come from? Is it the plant because it just doesn't static or doesn't wash well? You know what I mean? I don't want to get too involved, but I'm sure eventually we'll be able to get to that comparison to where it'll be a back-to-back or head-to-head with something that we know does both, maybe. I don't know. You see, we're trying to find, like, we're working with people in Morocco right now on triploids because they have a big problem with crossover pollination. but they take a year to produce, and not every one of those is a hitter either. It's like anything else. Breeding breeding is hard enough per se to come up with a good hash dropper. Okay, so you find a good hash dropper, then you take that and then you test it in static and you say, oh, okay, it works in static. Okay, now we triploid it. Okay, now how did that turn out, right?
Problem
And
I have
that's
with that, the problem I have with that is there is heritage in those regions with the varieties they have that go back centuries. And if that gets lost because people come in with new genetics, we've seen this before, they come in with new genetics and then that gets erased. Only because it's market driven and it's money driven. You know what I mean? Not totally erased, but on scale, it gets erased. And so I kind of worry about that. Also, the other thing about triploids is it's really easy to make an intellectual property. If you have a triploid, it's much easier for you to make intellectual property, I believe, than it is if you just have open breeding.
I don't agree. But you could be right. I'm not sure, but that's already happened for the last 25 years. People have been throwing seeds down there. Okay, there's very little, to be honest with you, real land race left there. There are some small farms here and there that still have some, but the majority of them are not growing that anymore.
They're growing green crack?
They've grown it all, I'm sure. No doubt about it. Humboldt Seeds is there. You got DNA, you got World, you got everybody and their brother. And then you got every Spaniard trying to rip them off. You'll have to excuse me.
Triploids,
it becomes a really funny movie at a certain point because it's just I just watched a video of a guy going to Cannabis. Cannabis is coming, right? So people are starting to go over there. He was stopped at the airport and busted for all the rosin he was carrying and the pipe. So, let it be known out there, people, if you're going to Cannabis, it's going to be the same shit it's been the last couple of years where you're carrying, it's hit or miss whether you're going to make it.
Yeah. The other thing I think triploids were kind of, they kind of hit the scene last year, a year before, and people had a lot of stability issues. There was a lot of
they're horrible. I was doploiding seeds 40 years ago. Doploiding, okay? We knew about triploiding, but we doploided because that was easier, and we knew about it. But there wasn't no literature or shit. A friend of mine was a horticulturist, and he was a guy that grew, so we worked with him, and blah blah blah. He came up with this shit, and it worked. It worked, but it was a pain in the fucking ass where we were killing seeds faster than we could fucking pour them in the jar. What you're doing is taking colchicine, which is a crocus bulb, you crush it down, you make a 50-to-1 solution, and then you soak the seeds. The time, nobody back then, we didn't have anything to do, no knowledge of how long. How long did you do this? I don't know. So we'll do 5 minutes, we do one for an hour, whatever. We just did it. And we found that we were getting maybe 1% would live. Not literally, maybe 1%. You put in 1,000 seeds, you might get 10, might, right? Sometimes less than that, like 1 or 2 would pop. It was unbelievable. It was like, back, of course, back then too, we had some pretty good Colombian, and that was way back. So yeah, we were running on the high-end Walken, we were running on the Colombian Gold and those things. They were the better at that time from South, and yeah, it worked. But like you say, it's one of those things where the triploids now. Believe me, if they weren't begging and everybody wasn't doing it, I wouldn't be involved. I'll put it that way. But
yeah. But
they all want it, and they're all doing it, and that's what they're asking for. You know what I mean? And like anything else, we're trying to help them out because we help them out with the machines, so they trust us on those. And they're what they're doing now in comparison to what they used to do. They used to pound it down, and then they would do a little bit of a separation with that material, and they'd find like the better material there and hand some of that, say 10, 20% of what they would produce they pass over to these guys to do by hand on screens like we were talking about earlier, right? And that would be their high end shit, right? Their high end shit would be about 20% of what they produce. And the other 80% was, the brick block hash, basic stuff, right? And they made the turds for people and all that stuff too. But anyway, so now what they're doing with the static is now they're able to static it so fast and so well. They're beating it down to get it off the stick and then going right through the static. And that stuff is so good that now they're selling that at a premium price. And they don't even have to do the hand, but they can do a hand. And now they're doing a hand to get that last few percent out, which they'll have back served soon. I'll guarantee you that, because it's the micro stuff that's stuck to the trichomes that rubbing on the screen or whatever doesn't work. It works to a point, but it doesn't work 100%. That's where that vacuum sieving at the end really works, because that vacuum rips that stuff right off. And that's where you get the 99. So they're doing Pantella now, like up the Bing Bang. I mean, 90%, probably, yeah, more like, they used to say 80% was rock hash, brick hash. Now it's probably 60, 70% Pantella.
So explain to people what Pantella is.
Pantella is taking the raw trichomes and then put them in a vacuum bag and vacuum bagging it down with light pressure. So if it's a light pressure on it, boom, seals it in the bag. Put that aside for a couple of weeks, and it melds into basically making a concentrate without the heat and press. It's basically a raw hash, like taking your bubble hash if you're making temple balls, and rolling it out, heating it up, right, and then rolling it into a ball, marrying it all together. Same thing. So,
or like burying it in the hot sand.
well, in Afghan they do a goat skin. They'll take a goat skin bag. The best shit a farmer has, or a guy, depending on anyway, the guys that grow really good shit, they'll take and collect their hash and then put that in a bag, a goat bag, and seal it up and bury it. And they don't dig that up till the next year's sale in the valley.
No.
Go down to the valley and sell it the next year. So it's brewed for a year in the ground.
Damn.
And then they do. That's the highest quality shit. But it comes in, you might get a kilo.
Yeah. How long do you think it took them to develop that whole style and that whole way of doing it?
Well, there's different ways. Like I say, the silk sheet, I've seen guys that also use like a silver pan, a bowl with a blade, right? Or you could use like a business card or a credit card, or not a credit card, a playing card or something like that. And they'll take and use it that way, and it'll separate there. Same way as using a rubber glove and static, or a roller, or using your hand, right, on a screen. Same type of processing, basically. You carry a charge in your body, and you'll notice the people that are really good at doing hand sieving, dry static with a hand, carry a bigger charge than other people. They do. Don't get me wrong, but the ones I've seen that are really good like that, like you said, they can really whip it out, make a kilo or so a day by hand. They've got a different electrical charge than maybe you do, or me, or whatever, the other people. They're carry a stronger charge, no doubt about it. I've seen it. The difference between one person rubbing their hand on it and the other person rubbing their hand on it, it's like, oh my God, there's twice as much on his hand.
That's interesting.
Why did that happen?
So when JR was talking about bringing you on the show, he said he was excited about your desktop model that you're coming out with, and then he sent me like a picture that you wanted us to show up on screen. So I've got that picture up on screen. Is the desktop model in that picture? And I'd love to just hear more about
it. Orange? I can't see anything.
Yeah, the orange. It's it'll be on the podcast version. So yeah, the little orange guy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a personal one. That's a home unit. It's not a production unit in any way, shape, or form. I want to make that clear to everybody. The other thing is with static, okay? With static, I don't need to be working in a frozen room, but I do have to have low humidity, period. You have to be in a place with low humidity. So for that little machine to work or any staticking separation like that, dry sitting, you want low humidity, 30, 40%. So you're taking that thing to the Brazilian jungle and you want to throw some, trichomes in the top, you think it's going to work. It ain't. It's just going to be stuck as glue. So remember that humidity is a key to the machine also. But yeah, we're splitting the price down right now. What we've done is cut it in half. It's a pre-sale. They'll be deliveries in June. But that unit is basically a little, if you go on the catalog, which I sent you a link for that, you go on the catalog there, or go on the website, excuse me, and basically you'll see the unit is $12.50 now. That's half price. They're going to be 25 retail when they come out. We're releasing them, so they're half price now. You can just go ahead and order one when you feel like it. It came up from our $9.99. I know everybody's going to bitch at me. Okay, fine, yell at me all you want, but manufacturing costs went up a bit. So all we're doing is splitting the cost, so it's still half, 50% off, and that way we're not having to hurt anybody that already has put in money and so forth. So it kind of equalizes things. We're just trying to make sure we don't lose money on the deal, like anything else. You know what I mean? We're half
Well,
off is
now
half
that
off.
we're all enjoying and in the midst of World War III, how is that impacting your ability to get parts and do things and get around and move around?
Oh, this down a little. We got a shipment that got held up a little bit from the shipping problem right now, but it's nothing major. It's just probably going to slow things down maybe a week.
So we're coming into the kind of towards the end of the show. But JR had an interesting question that I wanted to make sure that we hit. Oops, there we go. I have to make my mic volume good. Anyways, JR had one of the last questions he wanted to ask you is kind of asking you about the future. So how do you see the next 2 years playing out for Dry Sift, or do you see things
Oh, it's going to
changing,
pick
or
up.
yeah?
Yeah, it's picking up already a lot. I've got calls from California, and they want as much as they can get because the concentrate market has gone downhill. There's so much. It's like people are sick of it. It's like there's just that's all you find there. And I can understand it to a point. And you know, it's just a matter of we got equipment being built and labs being built in different locations now all over the country. And it's just a matter of time. Slowly, it'll start coming out and people will start understanding and then they'll start saying, well, wait a minute, why am I, if that's the same price as this and that one tastes better and I get more and it works better, yeah, I'll stick with that. You know what I mean?
Well,
Yeah.
if you're a newer guy and you're looking to get into the industry, now would be the time to jump in rather than trying to invest in an industry that's already saturated and
Oh yeah.
already full of debt. Because like you said, some of these guys are deep in equipment. So they're not just going to shift over to a whole nother deepness of new equipment. You know what I mean? So the newer guy coming in has a real opportunity to pick up this technology and run with it.
Yeah, and we've got a range of machines. Like I said, the mini's the home unit, desktop home unit, literally. The R&D machine is what we use for R&D. It's got set plates. It produces a little bit more than the mini, but it's not production at all. The Pilot, the V1, and the V2 are our models in production. Pilot's the smallest one. Doesn't need an air compressor. Uh, Basis it's like 15,000. There's no real additions to that one. We don't have higher power generators on it. We don't have a few different accessories that we can add onto the B1 and B2. So it's a nice model for I'd say for the person who's a solo grower. He's a single source maker, right? That Pilot would probably be the machine for them.
Great.
Okay, and then you look at the air sieves. Like I said, the one we're going to have is going to be probably, right about that same price. And those two pieces, basically, with a couple of sieves and a tumbler or whatever, you're in. You know what I mean? You're running. So it's all relative. I think it's a lot less cost without a doubt. No ice machine, no water tank, no this, no that. No RO, blah blah blah. All I need is a dehumidifier and a regular room temperature, and I'm good to go.
Well, you sent us a link that I'm gonna include in the show notes so people will be able to check us out. But if they check out SamboCreek.com, you've got all your stuff on there. Before we let Tim go, JR, was there any kind of final questions you want to make sure that we hit?
Yeah. So now that the world is shifting towards a digital market, and brick and mortar, trade shows, festivals, all that kind of shit's dead. How are you guys shifting your gears to get ready for this new digital revolution that we're entering?
Oh, I don't know. It's like anything. We're pretty well scaling this out. We've got a Tumblr now, which I believe it's on the website now finally, and so we can go all the way from the beginning of the system all the way to the end. And like I say, we'll have the back sieve in a few more weeks, maybe a month at the most, I would say. I believe we're going to have the Cannabis, so we'll be releasing there. I hope. If not, that'll be Germany. But anyway, that gives you the complete system. Now we'll refine that, and if we find some better things, and we're automating the equipment more to get it more hands free. So basically, what we'd like to do in the end would be you put your material in this end, and it's coming out over there. And we even, I've worked through making an automated concentrate press, the whole bit. So basically, you put it in, it would static it, separate it, put it into the automated press, and start squeezing out concentrate. While you're still feeding the machine, it's pushing out over here. And that's one thing with the dry static. In one day, I can get that process to finished and in the bag and for sale. You can't do that with bubble hash. You're going to be a day or two just in drying and pressing and all the fun stuff.
Will it change the way people consume? Will it change the way they consume?
Realistically, I don't believe so, because now that, I don't know if you've seen, they've got what they call a sidecar loader on the bowls for the pipes, rather than loading in the top and putting your marble on, all that fun stuff. It's got like a side V on the side, a tube that goes down to the bottom. So you just pour your stuff in there, and it melts on down and loads itself, and boom, boom, boom. It's
interesting. So it will change maybe the bowl pieces, but not so much the rigs.
Yeah, the rigs will stay the same, I'm sure. It's just water in a pipe, you know what I mean? But basically, the bowl itself, I think that side loader or sidecar, they're calling it, I think is the ticket. Because that way you can just take a scoop of your raw, pour it in there, boom, it melts down. You're getting the hit the whole time, as fresh as you can get it.
So back in the day, like Ego Clash used to be like one of the premier hash events. Are there hash events that you'll be attending or keeping your eye on?
There'll be different growers or processors going there, I'm sure. You know what I mean? Because we don't realistically like Ego and those are guys that are making it. You know what I mean? Not equipment people. I mean, we're equipment people. And the bottom line, we're working with some people. I was just talking with Enzo with Luma Farms. We're doing some collaboration with him on growing and that. And I'm trying to work through that process, because we got a couple labs being built out there, and he grows phenomenal weed. And bottom line, it's a matter of, it'll take time for this to absorb as people are building these labs. You know what I mean? Like I say, it's not that big a deal to build one, but like anything else, you got to have the space, you got to build the room, put in the air, blah, 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 get your permit signed, and blah, 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 blah. So, in the California, it's a fucking nightmare, excuse my language. But getting a permit and doing anything in California is just obscene. I don't even know. I don't. After this last one, now they're shutting down refineries that are faster than they can pump gas. They're going to run out of gasoline.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. I live near one of those, so
Oh, really?
yeah, I do. So you touched on a hot topic once again. Well, let's see. So let's see. The
Yeah,
Plasma Static Mini over at SamboCreek.com. You got it on the homepage. So folks can Google that if they want to check it out too. The Mini Electrostatic Separator and Plasma-Matic Mini. It's a pre-order for delivery in June 2026. So people should definitely check that out. We'll have links in the show description or the show notes so people can check that out. But yeah, I guess
and go
that's
on Instagram is dirt to terp, all one word.
oh
You know
cool.
how Instagram is.
Yeah.
So dirt to terp. Go there. You can see my Instagram page. That's my backup one. But there's some pictures of the static operation there.
Oh, and I see their Instagram is Sambo Creek Filtration, all one word. If you want to look up the company on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Any last words, JR, before we head out?
No, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge. Gentlemen like you have put in the time, a lifetime of time into this plant. And guys like you have built the foundation for everything that we enjoy within this space. And many of you risked your lives and your freedom. And so for us in the community, we need to honor that, and we need to thank you, sir, and appreciate your time greatly.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Nobody's ever done that one.
Well, yeah, no, we appreciate it, and we love hearing. Like, thank you for taking the time to share your stories and just hear. It's really cool to hear how much things have changed, like you were saying earlier, like over the last 40 plus years, and how far things have gone, and also how things are done all over the world. So it's just been really interesting to hear your stories.
Yeah, I imagine like 50 years ago, guys are sitting around beating stuff with sticks, and now they're in giant cold rooms with static screens and gloves, and you know what I mean?
You can go on Instagram there. You can see. In fact, we got some videos I know on there, and I think they're on the Sambo website too. Some videos of Morocco. You can see. I mean, it's a little above Afghanistan. Afghanistan is dirt floors. Okay, in Morocco you get a tile floor, maybe, but most of the time you will in a better place. And they've got some upscale or a little cleaner freezer room, that kind of stuff. They're doing it, but it's like anything. It's just it's it's so much harder to do things there because you can't just go online and order something and get it delivered.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Amazon is not going to give you prime delivery.
Yeah, you definitely the infrastructure. I remember I went to India for the first time several years ago, and I saw how like the electrical came into the building and just the exposed wires everywhere, and I was like, I'm in a different place than what I used to.
All you gotta do is go out on the street and see all those wires hanging off the poles.
Yeah.
1,000 freaking wires going from pole to pole.
Yeah.
It's ungodly. And then you ever get up there? India is one of those fun places where Mumbai or whatever. You get up in the hotel a few stories and look down at the street and watch the traffic. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, man. If people are worried about, getting in a car in the San Francisco Bay Area or LA or whatever, try getting in a car in India, and it is a wild ride. Awesome. It was really great hanging out with you, Tim. JR, great to see you too, dude. We'll have this show up later in the week, so our friends on our podcast feed and YouTube can check this out. But once again, Tim from Sambo Creek Filtration, check them out, sambocreek.com. We have links in the description. And as always, JR,
growers love.
Growers love, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.